Well,
That's my
hello
guess.
everybody.
We'll see.
Yep. Well, we are live Progress Report. I'm Jordan Zacher, and I am joined today by an old pal, Josh Clemens, who is in Wisconsin. And if you're following the races in Wisconsin, you are following. If you're excited about what's happening in Wisconsin, you are excited because of Josh's work. I don't want to get his head too big, but he's a digital guy. He's a digital guy, campaign guy, and he from the very beginning was with Francesca Hong, who's a state representative and looking likely, very likely tonight. And I guess I'll have to retitle this if she doesn't win. But looking very likely to win the Democratic nomination for governor. I remember last fall we did a live stream with her, and I was excited she was running, but I'll be honest, did not necessarily expect that she'd be clear at the top of the ballot right now,
You were
which is
not the
pretty
only one,
cool.
for sure.
And yeah, Josh, yeah, for made that live stream happen and just sort of been was a big part of her operation for a long time. So I wanted to bring him on and talk about how that happened, because there's so many conversations about, oh, is she electable, is like, how did this happen, and like, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't just someone all of a sudden woke up one day and everyone decided to vote for her. Right? It was a long process. So I want to bring Josh on to talk about it.
What do they say? An overnight success after 10 years of hard work, kind of
Right.
thing. you know.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm a huge fan of yours and the work you do. And for listeners who don't know, Jordan is also a phenomenal digital guy. That's how we met, working together on consulting on race. I don't know if you talk about that much, but
I think a little bit. Back Tom Nelson was
yeah,
Wisconsin
that's where we
race
met.
back.
Tom Nelson.
It's too bad. He could have won that Senate race. I think if he was a general election candidate.
We're dealing with the same candidates this time around. So
Yeah,
here in
exactly.
Wisconsin, yeah. So I'll give some context. So let me start by saying, for folks who are listening, I left the Hahn campaign in December. So I have not been inside the campaign since December. There was a big shakeup and a bunch of people left, and I was one of them. But I worked with Francesca Hong for 5.5 years. She first reached out to me when she was an activist, creating, it was called the Femstival. It was a celebration of like women in the arts, restaurants, and entrepreneurship. She brought me on to help her bring folks out to this event. We packed the place. It went great. That was like maybe 2 or 3 months before COVID. So like February of 2020. And then she called me in like July, maybe, and said, I'm going to run for state assembly. So this is during COVID. She was a restaurant owner. She was really pissed with the way our do nothing Republican legislature was just like phoning it in. Like, for
Mhm.
context, we have a full-time legislature and they were deemed the least effective legislature in the entire country, despite the fact that they were getting paid all year. They would gavel out 3 months into the year and
And
just
just
be done.
gerrymandered out the eyes, right? Just gerrymandered.
Gerrymandered
Yeah.
beyond reproach. Like, we couldn't touch them. We still like we had flipped the governor's office, but then they lame ducked him, and they made
Right.
him weak, like during the lame duck. So like we were just like in the pit of despair in Wisconsin, where like everything was hopeless because we couldn't do anything because we had Republicans who drew the maps and just gave us no inch. So Fran calls me in 2020 and says she's running for state assembly, and I was like, yes, let's go. Like, amazing. So I came on as her digital director, like senior strategist, whatever, like ran her digital program, served as essentially comms and strategy. And it was a 7-way race, and we won with 28% of the vote. And we ran against 2 elected officials, one person with like self-funding, and a bunch of other serious people. And we managed to out-organize like a race that was not ours to win, but like, and we won with 28% of the vote, like it was a crazy race. Like, I don't know, like if it had been us versus just one, like there was one woman running who I think was probably the front runner. Her name's Marsha Rummel. She's great. She was a local alderwoman. If it had been a one-on-one race, I don't know that we won. If it had not been COVID, I don't know that we win, because Marsha Rummel was a great candidate, but she was terrible at being on the internet. And it was a COVID election. And so Fran had
Huge.
this like superpower, like we did. I mean, we were very good. Like, my whole thing is like, let's win the internet. We were very good at navigating the internet. We created a TV show that Fran ran called the theme of her campaign was sharing the table. So we created it was a Facebook Live, kind of like this, but it was all COVID era. So she would literally get together with smart people, and one of them would teach the other one to cook a dish, and they would talk shop. So we had like school board members on, and a congressional candidate, and the guy who ran food policy for Madison. Like, I ran that all through Be Live in Madison. If you remember Be Live back in the day, like precursor to all this stuff. So we really got innovative throughout that campaign. We had to, like, we couldn't knock doors. And we really had to find different ways to talk to voters. And so, long story short, we won with 28% of the vote in a 7-way race. And the day after the election, so for context for our listeners, I work a ton of races. Like, I'm working dozens of races right now. I've worked over 150 races in the last 10 years.
Wow.
I have never had a candidate say yes to this following proposition. The day after she won, she called me to thank me and say bye. And I said, don't. Instead of sending me on my way, let's keep going. Let's build something. This is an amazing, like, we've tapped into something here. Let's keep raising money. Let's keep organizing. Let's help elected Dems all over the state. And again, I've made that pitch to many Dems. Fran is one of one for saying yes and actually doing it. Some say yes, but don't do it. Fran actually did it. And for literally 5 years, I mean, it depends on exactly where the timeline is for like when we switched to governor, but for 5 years, we laid the groundwork, or what I call the bedrock, for everything that came after, because we spent those 5 years organizing, creating digital content, rolling out campaigns. We were one of the top fundraisers in the entire assembly throughout that time, despite the fact she was in a safe district and never had a primary opponent. Like, we just kept raising money because people saw that she was doing exactly what she's doing now, which was raising money for progress, not for herself.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we raised, like literally everything we raised, went out the door. It either covered overhead or it went to another candidate. And Fran worked tirelessly. She traveled the state, like helping Dems. It was gerrymandered time, so there wasn't a lot of flipping of seats, but we tried. We raised a lot of money. We raised a lot of awareness. We did flip some seats, but like fewer than we would have under fair maps. And we managed to like lay a lot of groundwork, which then the Hong for governor race, which again, I was the digital director for that first launch, where we just blew people out of the water with our digital program. Like, we became a household name in Wisconsin. That didn't start at zero, right? That started 5.5 years ago when we continued. The day after her primary election, most people shut it down. She said, yes, let's keep going. And I am confident that had that not happened, today doesn't happen. Like, I'm not saying that is the only thing that's responsible for it, but we managed to lay all this groundwork over years and years and build her brand within the folks who were paying attention to this stuff, so that when she decided to announce for governor, she had a base. Like, she wasn't just the state rep from the 76th. She was Fran Hong, who had knocked thousands of doors across every district, or not every district, but every region of Wisconsin, and just really got out there. So it's both an inspiring story and an instructive story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it says so much about what's wrong with our party, which we hear this all the time. Democrats wait until October to start spending money.
Right.
Like, okay, where have you been the last 2 years or the last 6 years? Like, you can't show up in August and expect anybody to care about you for November. You've got to lay groundwork. And again, so we could talk about this more. I have this thing I call the bedrock approach, which we can talk about, but like, you've got to build relationships with your audience being the voters, over the course of years, if you want people to actually care about you when you run for election. And I think like Fran might be the best example of bedrock in action ever. And it's pretty exciting to watch that, like, she's very likely to be the Democratic nominee tonight. She might not. We'll see what happens. It has been, for folks who aren't following, this has been the weirdest political cycle maybe of all time. Like,
it is really weird in Wisconsin right now. It is very strange. You guys got people dropping out, jumping back in. Governor, just Democrats. It's strange times.
I've never seen somebody get out of a race and get back in. Have you?
Not like that quickly and that close to the, quickly.
Have you ever seen it in any context?
No, I'm like thinking, maybe I should just save some space for if it happened, possibly, but I don't.
I've never seen it, and
it was bizarre.
If Fran doesn't win tonight, the guy who does win will be David Crowley. I mean, Kelder Royce and Joel Brennan are both running as well, but like, David is clearly like running in second. He's got the momentum going in. Governor Evers' support, he literally dropped out of the race a month and a half ago and then got back in the race, which again, I've never seen somebody do that. And it all stemmed from the fact that our sitting lieutenant governor, Sarah Rodriguez, people were starting to coalesce around her, including David Crowley, the county exec from Milwaukee. And then it turned out that her campaign finances were, I don't know what.
There? Like, they had leaking money. They had less money than they thought.
I've never seen a campaign implode like this. They claim that they were doing $1 million ad buy, which you don't have to tell people. You could just do it. And then 3 days into the ad buy, announced that she was having a press conference. Turned out the money wasn't there. She didn't know where the money was. They were doing accounting. They stopped showing up to events that they were scheduled at. Then the next day, they said they updated their campaign finance report to say that they only had $35,000 on hand. Don't quote me on the numbers, but it was like low double digits. But they owed $150,000, so they were actually in the hole. Then they said, no, wait, actually, there's $600,000. And then they said, no, wait, we were right the first time. There's 35,000. And then she dropped out. Like, it was like, she should have just dropped out on day one when this all started.
Right.
And we'll see. I do not think that story is over. I think that there's going to, like, the campaign finance stuff, like, something went on there. Yeah. I have no idea if it was, I'm not going to even speculate, but like something was going on.
Sure.
But essentially, David Crowley dropped out of the race and endorsed Sarah. And then Sarah dropped out of the race. And suddenly, you could either say, okay, Mandela Barnes is the alternative to Hong.
Right.
Or Kelder Royce. He had his own issues, which, I mean, was like, I assume is why Evers did not endorse him, but I don't know for sure. But I mean, like, people knew those stories, but like, I mean, they all came out eventually.
Yeah, like it takes so long. It's like someone's waiting or sitting on them, or no one wants to talk about it until it's like, and we can say briefly, there were the rumors Mandela Barnes and I would say, I guess, relationships with younger members of the party that he used his power for. We can leave it at that because I don't have any, I can't confirm anything, but
you can Google it. But that's all I know is what like Google, is on the.
But it's the sort of thing that like has been out there, right? And you're like, how did it not?
It has.
Why did it take until now?
So in 2022, I think people knew the same stories that came out in 2026, but folks assumed he was going to be the nominee. He was the strongest general election nominee, and nobody wanted to be the one to like stop him, which I think was the right move. As somebody who worked for one of his opponents, I did not want to see Mandela Barnes go into the 2022 primary weekend or general weekend. And I don't know any specifics, so it's not like I was withholding anything. I'm just saying, like, I had heard murmurings that there might be stuff out there, but like, it was very clear he was going to win that primary and he needed to come out strong. In 26, obviously, it was much less clear. There was a lot more going on. I was actually surprised those stories came out as close to election day as they did. Like, I don't know anything about the TikTok on that. I know some very serious journalists were on the case. I know, I don't know if that story's over. And I think there's a lot of pushback on whether or not those stories should have pushed him out of the race. Like the things he did, like that Jordan just described as they've been reported, like they weren't ideal, but there was no criminal element to them. So, but at the end of the day, what matters is Tony Evers did not think that Mandela Barnes should be governor because instead of supporting him so for context, Tony Evers has had 2 lieutenant governors in Wisconsin, or period. Mandela Barnes and Sarah Rodriguez, they were both running for governor. So it made sense that he wouldn't endorse either of them because they're both in the race. But when Sarah dropped out, you would think, okay, well, if he doesn't want Hong, which he clearly doesn't, that he would endorse Mandela, but he did not. Instead, he asked David Crowley to get back in the race. And I heard a lot of podcasters on the national scene saying, weird that this is happening. And I think in Wisconsin, folks kind of understood what was happening, but it's still like not exactly clear. And at the end of the day, Mandela dropped out a couple weeks later.
And I do not think he dropped out. Some candidates get held to versus others. It may be partisan, it may not be, but I mean, not that I don't know Mandela Barnes. I'm not mourning his departure, but it is a little strange in that way.
I mean, we have Republicans running for office with Republican support who have been accused of awful things, and then, if a Democrat is not perfect, Fox News is all over him. But I would like to live in a world where all candidates are held to the same standard, and that is the good standard, not the anything goes standard.
I mean, so thinking about that, and we can keep talking about the Francesca's campaign getting to this point, but it seems like you were telling me before when we spoke, I don't know, earlier this year, talking about like it was something you had never seen before, just the sheer amount of grassroots energy. And then there was this fear that, she's not electable. And look, I don't live in Wisconsin. I can't speak to that. But like then they pick apart little things like old tweets and stuff. Does it feel like there's there obviously was a panic, but what kind of, as someone kind of there, what do you get from that?
So right now, again, we are speaking 2 hours and 44 minutes before the polls close. So I don't know what's going to happen. I know what the polls say. I know like what I think is going to happen, but I don't know what's going to happen. They had no establishment support. Like the amount of spending on their behalf was very limited compared to Crowley. I can say for do with this what you will. Republicans spent heavily to get Fran elected,
Right.
which says a lot. Like their internals clearly show that she is more beatable. I'm not speaking to fact. I'm speaking to like
Sure.
they're spending money. So clearly they are of the opinion. Um, this is going to be, unless something bizarre happens, 2026 is going to be a very strong year for Democrats. We are blessed to have a truly awful candidate in Tom Tiffany, the
Yeah.
Republican. I could talk about that. We should talk about that. It's worth noting what a bad politician he is, that he is in a position where he's a MAGA guy 9 months into a primary where he didn't have to defend his seat. So Republicans spent millions of dollars to lift up Fran. They leaked memos to say she was the scariest one as a way to lift her up. Like Republicans want to run against her. The establishment, obviously, like whatever that means. Like she's gotten some establishment endorsements, but certainly most of the like labor and whatnot have gone elsewhere. And I think that electability, when Fran first decided to run, I was one of the early phone calls and we talked about it. And I said to her, my philosophy was a lot of people told her she couldn't win. And my response was, they are right. You cannot win the traditional electorate. We have to expand the electorate to win.
Mm.
And my philosophy from day one of this campaign was that we're not running against our opponents. We're running against the couch. We need to find people that would not vote otherwise and get them out. And my digital strategy laid into that from day one, which you can go back and look at our earliest content. It was really about changing what it means to run for office at a statewide level. We were yes. We were not the only one doing this. Abdul El Sayed has done some things that like I think are ridiculous, but like I am of the opinion that if it gets eyeballs, like, and it doesn't hurt your brand, it's like good for your brand because you're like getting more people in. He's done some things that I'm like, I don't know if I would have signed off on it, but like it obviously worked for him. But like with the Hong campaign, so much of it was about every piece of content we created. My goal was that somebody who had never cared about a politician would see that piece of content for the first time and come on board. And if she wins tonight, like those decisions that we made a year ago when we first like were rolling out this launch, like everything is built on, like, forget about 5.5 years ago, like a year ago, the decision was made, like, we're not going to be able to do this as a traditional campaign. Like Mandela Barnes, solid candidate, a lot of money, huge list. He had a very traditional launch video. Whatever you think of it, I mean, it was good, whatever you think of it. He rolled that out and then nothing happened. Sarah
Right.
Rodriguez, she was in such a hurry to get into the race. The day after Tony Evers announced he wasn't running, she launched her launch video, which I would argue was a mistake because there was a lot of controversy around it. And it would have been a good thing to do if she was ready for her launch. But instead, she had one big video, one big moment, and then she disappeared for 2 months.
Right.
The Hong campaign, we pre-created content for weeks up front. Like, I mean, we had weeks worth of content. I didn't want there to be a minute of downtime. Like from the moment we launched, we kept that energy up. I would argue till today. Like there has been no downtime from like the moment our launch video hit 1 million views across social to today. There's like no lag time. Every time I open up any social channel, there's somebody posting about Fran. Every time I do a post on TikTok or Instagram, somebody is in my feed talking about Fran. Like we built this movement. And again, if she wins, it will be based on like the fact that like the electorate has been expanded and we brought folks in and we're just like super excited about changing it. So like the establishment, I don't even know what that means. Like nobody really does. Clearly there are those like Tony Evers does not want Fran to be governor. He's been very clear about that. I don't think that David Crowley is your traditional establishment. I think he's made the argument pretty well that, came from poverty, lifted himself up out of nothing. He's arguably the second most, if not the first, like he's one of the most powerful Dems in the state. Like county exec of Milwaukee is a huge job. He's essentially second only to the governor as far as like what he oversees. But, I don't know. It's
not
a complicated
really
election.
charismatic, I'd say.
It's a shame that that's how he comes across, and I don't disagree. In the real life, he is by far the best retail politician who was running for governor this year. Yeah, I've known him for years. Not well. Like we've met at events and like things. The guy can work a room like nobody else, and he can get on stage like nobody else. But I do agree that a lot of his media appearances have not showcased him as like
stilted and just sort of like awkward.
Yeah, I get the impression, and I say this completely outside, no inside knowledge. I get the impression he's trying to play a role that he's not necessarily like. It's not that he's not being himself. It's that he's trying to like be the governor 2 days before election day. The biggest question I have about all of these campaigns, frankly, including Crowley, why they waited so long to start campaigning. The Hong campaign was doing events a year before
Yeah.
anybody else was. We were investing in digital. So I'll tell you, like, so I tracked when I was the digital director, I was tracking everything super closely. And I have this tracking tool so I could see like how we're performing on social compared to everybody else. And we were just like, it wasn't even like, it was like two different games. Like we were 8Xing them all combined. But there would be days I'd go and I'd look at David's social, because every now and then, like David had decent social at times, but then I would go and look and it would say he had 0 engagement. So they'd be like, oh, something's broken. But I dig in. Oh, no, he hasn't posted on social in 2 weeks. He did this weird thing where he like, it was like spits and starts. And in fairness, he was the only one with a real day job. Like he was running the
Right. Run
county
a
and
kilowatt.
dealing with a
Yeah.
lot of, like they had flooding, they had budget issues. Like, he had a big job. Whereas everybody else was either a legislator or like outside of office,
Right.
lieutenant governor, obviously. So, it's hard, but like it never made sense to me why none of them seemed to be like trying to match the program that we were building. We
So
laid a very clear ground game that somebody could have followed, and we never really saw any of them try to follow it.
what was it about? So, you can do all the content in the world, right? You can do live, Facebook Live, Instagram, whatever you want to do. You can have events, but like people got to show up to them and care about them and enjoy it actually. So, what is it about? Do you think, Fran? I know people talked about data centers a lot. That's something that, more perfect union. I think we've been on kind of from the beginning, but data centers, like obviously this is a very anti-incumbent, establishment year. But what is it about Fran that you think actually got people excited over the last 5.5 years?
I would simplify it significantly more than any one issue. And this is something that I tell every candidate to do. And Fran was good at it from the get go, and I helped her continue to do it. The content is not about her, it's about them. It's about the people. You are not the superhero of the story, you are the messenger. And we see so many campaigns fail this time and time again, where if you go look at their social, it looks like they were building a program to bring them to lift themselves up. I always tell candidates, and it's hard for them to hear, no one cares about you.
It is
They
hard.
care about themselves.
You kind of
And
default to like
Fran,
flattering them in a way.
exactly. Like if so many campaigns, they might as well be wearing a freaking superhero cape. And like nobody, and I actually did a YouTube video and a blog post about this. Like Zoran and Cuomo, I think were like great examples. Like Cuomo tried to like, he saw, Zoran's video program and he's like, oh, I could do that. What he missed was that it was never about video. Video was the way he told the story, but the story was about the people. How often was Zoran not speaking in his own videos? How often was the mic on
Right.
somebody
So,
else, right?
yeah,
Because
the
so much
hello
of it was about the
guys. Yeah.
platform. And Cuomo, 100% of the time, was him in the middle of throngs of people saying, you're the man, you're the man. Great, you might have convinced your mom, but like nobody else did. Like
And
no one believes
unfortunately,
that. And
he
Fran was
looks
very
and
good at
sounds like a
getting that she
donkey.
was not the focus. I mean, yes. Fair.
so,
Yeah, I mean,
so
there were many issues with Cuomo, many. But like, I just think that they were like very instructive of like, one of them was building a program that centered the voters, and one of them was building a program that centered themselves. And Fran, with my help, of course, but like, she was like very good at this. We always focused on the people, and you can see it. Go look at the social channels. Go find 3 candidates, even ones you like, and really ask yourself when you're looking at it, what percentage of the content is about them versus about the people? Most campaigns fail that simple message. And honestly, I actually think that's why we did so well with Tom Nelson. Like for folks listening who don't know Tom Nelson, like he's a really interesting guy. He's a county exec of a big county here in Wisconsin, a Republican county, running as a progressive Dem for the Senate. And we were outperforming all of our opponents on Facebook. I don't know if you know that because you left a little bit earlier and stuff.
yeah.
We were outperforming. We were one of the top 10 most engaged Facebook pages for a Senate race in the entire country, despite the fact that we were
Like third
spending
or fourth
less
place.
than 1% of what most of the other campaigns were spending. We
Right.
were seeing tremendous numbers. And that was, again, not to like, I am not the hero of this story. I never am. But like, it was always about turning it around from being about Tom to being about the
So
people.
what does that mean
Um,
exactly? Tell me about that, because
um,
you've got to have the oftentimes the candidate, the person on camera, right? They're the ones talking, they're narrating and telling the story. So what does it mean to make it about the voters? Is it
so
like videos about the meeting people? What is it?
So the very obvious is like man on the street style, which we've done a lot of. You can go watch a lot of Fran's content. She's not in it. Like it's a lot of times it's other people speaking, but it's also speaking about issues. So I like to break it. So I run organic and paid social programs for loads of candidates. And I like to break up social into 2 big buckets: values and stories. Stories are about you. I pet a dog. I went to a parade. I got an endorsement. Great. Like you got to have that stuff. You got to show people you're a real person. You've got experience. Values somebody who sees that content should care whether or not they've ever heard of you. And so many candidates focus on the story side. Let me tell you about myself. Let me tell you about my childhood. Let me tell you about my plans. All of that stuff's important, but it's only important to people who are watching it, right? And
Right.
no one's going to watch it if they're like, who's this guy? And just moves on. Values content speaks to people who have never heard of you. And the goal is always to find that way to get somebody to say, oh, yeah, okay. And that means speaking about issues. It also means speaking about like shared experiences. It also, of course, means turning the camera around. So one thing, like, it's just like, I might as well be a freaking chatbot. Like when it comes to editing content, if I see the word I in a social post from a candidate, I'm changing it. There's no
Yep.
way I'm ever using the word I in anything because unless it is very specific, like when I grew up, but like otherwise it's we. Like, what did we do? Look at what we're doing. And like that is such a simple twist. But go look at some of those campaigns. Like, go look at the Schumers of the world. Like, you're going to see a whole lot of I's, and then go look at the El Sayeds of the world, and you're going to see a whole lot of we's. And like, it's such a simple, funny framing, but like, if you can't see yourself in the content, you can't see yourself in the campaign. And like, and let me also say, like the Hong campaign, I am very proud of the digital program I helped build. We also built a massive field program
Right.
that I was tangentially a part of because it was digital bringing folks to field. We had
Right.
a very large focus on like online to offline, ladder of engagement, but I was not involved day to day at all in the field program like that. My goal was to get folks into it, and then there were other people responsible for that. But that also helped because we had all these people who felt like they were part of the team, and I say that like they were part of the
Right.
team. I think there's like 7,000 people have volunteered with the campaign. I've asked, like, I've lived in Wisconsin since 2012. I've been followed politics pretty
Right.
closely, but I've asked folks like who have been around longer than me, and the answer every time, has anything like this ever happened in Wisconsin in modern politics? And the answer is no. There's never been like you cannot understand the feeling right now on social media and in real life, but especially on social on around this campaign. Like what the vibe on this campaign, like every time I open up a social media channel, there's something about Hung. It's like wild. Um, and if she doesn't win, we'll see what happens. And if she
But
does
that's
win,
so
we'll see what
discordant,
happens.
like, and I fully believe you. So it's so discordant to think this, like, I'm here in New York, right? And like, people just would not, no one on the streets talking about it in New York, but like, the things you see on Twitter, on CNN, whatever it is, talking about like, is she electable? Is she electable? Is she electable? Looking at her old tweets, saying like, no one's going to care about this person. Whereas, they've got this huge field program, and you got people excited and people coming into the campaign who've never been there before. It seems like there's a huge disconnect between the way people like outsiders understand the campaign and the way the campaign's actually functioning within Wisconsin.
And honestly, like I do think, like to be totally honest, like I think the last 2 weeks hurt her. They probably cost her like a lot of points today. And I've been seeing a lot of folks specifically on Facebook. Like I'm on all the channels because I do this
Yeah.
for a living. Facebook seems to be the place where people are the most like, do not vote for Fran. TikTok and Instagram, my goodness, you cannot escape it. Like everyone's excited. Um, and Reddit too, though, like turned on her a bit, like so we built we were very intentional about building like a Reddit. We worked to like win over Reddit, and I saw a lot of people being like, "What is
They turn on
happening
her
right now?"
because they like are hearing she's not electable. Is it like
Turned
this
on her
sort
is
of a
not the right
snake
word.
eating the tail?
People were very concerned about some of those interviews. I'm not going to pretend that those didn't
Yeah.
happen. But the average person that I see in my Instagram comments and my TikTok comments, whether they know about it or not, they do not care. And I would argue, like, so we talked earlier about bedrock approach, which like is my like philosophy on how I win
Yeah.
campaigns. Usually down ballot, but sometimes top of the ticket. And one of the beauties of bedrock is you lay this groundwork that's so hard that it doesn't prevent attacks, but it makes attacks less important. Because think about it, like if you're, let's say you see a stranger do something terrible on the street. All you know about that guy is he's an asshole, right? Now let's say it's your brother and he does something terrible on
He's
the
an
street. But
asshole
it's like
too.
your brother. It's
Okay.
like, dude, you might okay, fair. But like, hey, you having a bad day, man? Like, what's going on? Like,
Right.
okay, like you're not gonna like write him off in the same way as you would. And so like by building up such a strong base of support over so long, the attacks still matter, but they matter less. And that is like, and I've literally helped win like very hard state assembly seats and like
Yeah.
races by like inoculating us to the like radical communist attack because we've shown people that that's not who we are over months and months and months leading into election day, which again is the whole premise behind like Bedrock is like teach people that like show people that you're a real person, so that when Republicans start spending their money calling you a radical communist, people to roll their eyes at it.
It's sort of in a strange way, a little bit. Donald Trump, he could do anything, and like a lot of people will just always stick with him because he's been around for the ultimate bedrock guy, right? He's been around since the
Ultimate.
'80s in a way.
What a tragic example. I've never thought about it.
Yeah,
But it's true. Like, there's so many controversies, but he's also like, everyone knows him. They know what they get with him. And like
yeah.
his supporters just like, they don't care, Like, and I don't think that that is a good model for our party, but I do think it's like relevant to think
Get the
about, like,
worst guy you
why
can
is he
find.
inoculated? Right. JD Vance is not getting the same kind of leeway that Donald Trump got, like, if JD Vance start falling asleep in meetings, they're going to freak out on him, but like, it's Donald, like, he's fine. Like, we love him. We've known him forever. Like, yeah, genuinely, that's like a great way to think about it.
And it's so thinking about the electability thing. Is it frustrating to you because like it's such a snake eating its own tail thing, right? You talk about electability, and then people are like, "Oh, she's not electable," so then people don't vote for her, in theory, and then like, "Oh, look, her numbers went down, so she's not electable." And it just seems like something that, like whether her interviews were good or not, and yeah, she didn't give you best answers about Thanksgiving and stuff, whatever. But it's always frustrated me. The horse race stuff has always sort of frustrated me, and how it actually shapes, the conversation in terms of how it actually like shapes the election. It's such a strange thing to you, and it must be frustrating to you.
Well, and I mean, let's be honest, like, electable often means like white dude, right?
Yeah,
Which actually this election has been so weird. We had 7 people running and one of them was a white dude, but 6 of them were not. So it like
right.
complicated things, like David Crowley, for the folks who don't know, he's black. So like he's not we do have one white guy still running. He's polling at like 1 or 2%. But electable, I mean, folks are like, I think Dan Pfeiffer says no one's electable till they win. Like,
Right.
same folks who said Barack Obama couldn't win are out there saying Abdul El Sayed can't win. I do think candidates matter. So, like, I will say my goal is always to work with the most progressive candidate that makes sense for the district. So, Fran, like, for folks who don't know, the 76, the district she represents, it is to the left of, like,
Yeah,
I mean,
Madison.
there's nothing to the left of like the 76. Like, I just saw something. The Madison in general votes further to the left of like Manhattan. Like, we are like as progressive. Like, it's like
Yeah,
literally it's like an 85% Democratic stronghold. And the 76th is the heart of that. It's like downtown. It used to be campus. Now it's not. It's the north side, but like it is the most progressive seat in the most progressive city. In one of the most progressive cities in the
yeah,
country. And it's the most progressive seat in it. And actually, this was one of our philosophies when we ran for office the first time. I always said, like, not publicly, but our internal mantra was the most progressive district deserves the most progressive candidate. And
sure.
like, we work to be the most progressive. Like, we never shied away from it. That said, Wisconsin and Madison are two very different things. And like, I don't know. Like, well, winning today is going to be hard. It's step one. Winning in November is going to be a lot more important. Winning a primary don't mean shit if you lose the general. And I have no idea. Like I said, I'm on the outside now, so like I don't know what's going to happen in the next 2.5 months. I imagine we're going to see a lot. Like, according to Politico, we're going to see a lot of changes for the
Yes,
campaign.
I read
Like,
that.
that's what Politico says. Like, I have friends on the campaign, but I am not involved day to day in any way. But I'm watching it closely. I've been watching. I mean, professionally. I watch this race
Sure.
professionally and all of the Wisconsin races. And I think that, we'll see what happens, but electable, we'll see if she's electable come November, assuming she wins today.
Yeah, and so, when it comes to that sort of stuff, like Michigan, right? People kind of like eventually they beat up El Sayed pretty bad. They're pretty just like the electability issue, the being calling him sexist, all that stuff, anti-Semitic, whatnot. They rallied around him, but pretty quickly, pretty much in Michigan. Do you see that happening in Wisconsin? I don't know. Evers seems pretty pissed, but like the rest of the Democrats, do you think they rally around Francesca?
I think so. I mean, you never know, but I think anybody who doesn't get on board pretty quickly is going to find themselves on the outside for one very simple reason. For folks who don't follow Wisconsin politics too closely, this is literally the first election since 2010 where we have an opportunity to take back the legislature because of gerrymandering. It was literally impossible. Like, at one point during COVID, like in 2020, Republicans had a better path to a supermajority than we did to a simple majority, despite the fact that we've won just about every statewide race since 2018. There's only
Right.
been like 3 or 4 statewide races we've lost out of like 30. And yet Republicans were had an easier path to a supermajority because our maps were so dysfunctional. And then we flipped the governor's office. So we unseated Scott Walker, brought in Tony Evers, kept him in office 4 years later, flipped the Supreme Court, held that flip, expanded the Supreme Court, all
Yes.
things we worked immensely hard for. If you've heard Ben Wickler speak, like, all of this, but like, it's all true. Like, I was living it on TikTok. I was living it in campaigns every day. And this is the first election because, so last cycle, we had fair maps. And so every one of the assembly seats was up, and we flipped a bunch of them.
Right.
Not enough, but a bunch. But because the way the Senate, they only are each up every other cycle. So it literally wasn't possible to flip enough seats to flip
There's a
the
bunch
Senate.
now. Yeah.
This cycle it is. So folks, assuming Rep. Hong is the nominee, folks recognize that, like, we can't sit it out because we need her to be in office as the governor. We also need to flip the state assembly and the state Senate. Will they do it? I don't know. I mean, that all, like you said, the snake eating the tail. If folks decide she's a lost cause and they don't get on board, then she loses. But like, I know that no matter what happens, if Joel Brennan wins tonight, if some random write-in I've never heard of wins tonight, I will be advocating 100% for them every day from now till November with my platform, because I know how important it is that we win. And like, if Hong wins, if Crowley wins, if Kelda wins, if whoever, like, I'm all in, because this is our first chance, literally, since I moved here. And I've lived here like
Right. It was
a
2010
huge
when
chunk
everything
of my
flipped.
adult life. And like, we've never had a fair maps until this cycle. So like, it is just wild. We have a huge opportunity in Wisconsin. We all know it, and we're all working really hard. And I think it's good to have these fights now in the primary. Like, this is the time to have them and then put them behind us. I think it's fine for folks to be very upset about how things went. Like, folks who felt Sarah was the right person, or Mandela was the right person, or David shouldn't have gotten back in. All of that is acceptable today. Tomorrow, it's not. Cut that shit out. Get on board with whoever's the nominee, because, man, we got to win, because Tom Tiffany in charge. My goodness, man. Talk about scary. That guy, he's one of the most conservative members of the entire Congress.
Well,
like,
you
he's
don't
Ron
hear much
Johnson,
about
man.
him now, right? Like, you don't hear much because it's all about this primaries. He's been uncontested pretty much.
Well,
On the
he's
Republican
been
side.
spending heavily on TV, defining himself as like Mr. Wisconsin. So I mentioned this earlier. I'll get a little bit more into it. If anybody wants to nerd out on Wisconsin politics, I could do this all day. Tom Tiffany gave it. For fun fact, I ran against Tom Tiffany. Like, I worked a congressional race against him last cycle. It was an unwinnable seat, like the 7th. I'm actually working the 7th this cycle, and we have a real path to flip it. We should talk about that too. But last cycle, it was Tom Tiffany. We were running against him. We ran a great race. I was super proud of what we did. And we actually got him to spend against us because we like worked so hard and like got so much traction. But man, like, Tom Tiffany's seat was like R plus all the seats, like, it's like so conservative. So he decides to run for governor. He's the only one who ran. Like, there was one or two other people, but nobody serious. There's one other person on the ballot today, Adam Mansky. Like, he's going to get 3% of the vote. Like, Tom Tiffany, got Trump's endorsement, raising millions of dollars. Tom Tiffany did a huge service to us. He's very bad at this. Tom Tiffany, if he was even remotely good at politics, 9 months ago, when he realized he cleared the field, he would have started pretending to be a moderate. Everybody knows who he really is. You don't have to look very far to see the kind of policy, the votes he's taken, the policies he's advocated for, the tweets he said. But 9 months ago, he could have put on his Mr. Moderate hat and said, the Dems are going to fight this out for 9 more months, and I'm over here trying to win over independents. He's going to get the Republican vote. His TV ads have done it. His Twitter and his social, not even a little bit. He is like a MAGA crazy on social. Like, if anybody wants to see him, go check out his social media. He has been running as a far-right extremist this whole time, which, again, forget about the fact that, like, fuck your politics, man. Like, they're terrible. It's just bad politics. Like, why? Like, it was such an opportunity, and I was genuinely nervous. And the best thing I can say about this campaign, we've had a long, difficult, complicated primary, but we are going in on relatively equal footing as far as framing goes, because he's done so little to own that. The downside is he's been spending now for, months, and you can't I don't have a TV, but like, we watch CTV, we watch YouTube, and I actually don't see him too much in my house. Like, he must have me out of his, but like, man, I go to the bar, I go to the restaurants, there he is on TV. Anywhere you go, he's on TV, and he's eating his little fish fry, and he's got his mom in his ads, and he's pretending to be that Wisconsin moderate that, like, he should have been all year. And thank goodness for us, he hasn't, because we have a real opportunity, I think, still to define him. Because, yeah, no one's talking about him right now. But he has been spending heavily on TV.
It's something interesting to me about, we can talk, I mean, Francesca got in trouble for that funny tweet about Thanksgiving, whatever. Her saying abolish Thanksgiving. who cares?
The
But like,
original super spreader event, I think is what she meant.
yes, yeah, and like, but it's funny the way the media reacts, and I'm in the media, so I kind of fixate on this element
Eh,
of it. But like
you're an
the
activist.
but yeah, yeah, I split my time.
Yeah.
But in any case, like, it's interesting to me that they are they treat it like a moral almost an issue if you're on the left. It's like an immoral thing. Whereas like if you're Tom Tiffany and you're the MAGA crazy, that's like, oh, it's just like you're a conservative. You know what I mean? It's very strange to me. And it's got like it's almost again like Abdullah Sayed. He wrote wrote years ago that maybe football had some toxic masculinity in it, and like that was treated on CNN today like it was this big fucking scandal. And like who gives a shit? But that's the sort of thing where it's gotcha for the left more than anything else.
I agree. I mean, the media obviously, like, they worked so hard to not be seen as having an opinion that they're just like so like the Overton window has moved so far to the right, and it's infuriating. I mean, every cycle, I'm working all these campaigns, and they either ignore us or it's a double standard. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some great journalists out there who I love, but
Sure.
the media as an institution, I think, has clearly like not met the moment since 2016. Like pretty clear. Maybe before, but certainly since 2016, I think it's pretty clear that like they have not understood that our entire system is at risk, and like you don't need to be the arbiter of like decorum. You need to like speak truth to power when one of those sides is saying, "Oh, we should pass better laws," and the other side is saying, "We should outlaw the media." You should take a side.
Right.
And the fact that their side is still like center, I don't
Yeah.
care about their politics. I care about the fact that like it's their job to hold truth to power. And I think it's pretty clear they failed to do that these last couple of years. And I think most of them would agree as well. I mean, the media institutions maybe not, but most individual journalists understand that like
We find out that
we have failed the movement.
they find out today that Trump put him on Air Force One while Iran was threatening to shoot it out of the sky. They're not going to think twice about it.
And if they got invited tomorrow to go to another White House Correspondents' Dinner, they would accept. Like we are past the point of like polite society here, and I think we need to reframe how we think about this stuff. But it's pretty clear after we're 10 years into this shit, and like nothing is changing. So maybe it changes when Trump's no longer president, and we can put that behind us. But I don't know. Like as long as we have billionaires controlling our media in general, but specifically like so much right wing media, it's like it's hard to part of why we have to do it the way we do is like you have to go around this stuff, like
And yeah,
um
that's a big question of mine. So like thinking about, let's say Francesca wins. By the time people watch this, not live, by the time it's sent down in the newsletter, we can like if she doesn't, then you can stop watching now. But let's say she wins.
but
Um,
wait, there's what right.
what is to you as someone who's like knows the down ballot, who knows like the ins and outs of Wisconsin, like as someone who worked for her, but also just someone who's in the game in Wisconsin. What is the path to victory, knowing how hostile the media is?
Assuming she wins today, the path to victory is she needs to continue doing what she's done, which is continue to develop a digital program that reached people for virtually no dollar. Let's reframe. They have spent a fortune on ads in the last like 3 weeks, but prior to that, they were not spending anywhere. I was tracking like all the campaign spending, and they had spent $200 all year, like on Facebook, and like nothing anywhere else. So, but we didn't have to because we were getting so like Zoran too, like they spent all of their money on TV, not
Yeah.
social. And my thought on that was like, wow, it's so weird. Like TV's, like everybody knows it's antiquated. And I actually had a really good chat with Gabi Zutro. Like we have a little YouTube show that we do together. She did many chat for him.
Mhm.
She's a friend, a badass. I don't know if folks know her. And she was like, well, yeah, we didn't need to spend on social because we were getting so
Yeah.
many impressions for free. And I think if the Hong campaign continues the way that they're doing it, it's true. Now, I would argue if I had stayed on, one of the many things I would have argued for would have been to, along with cleaning up the Twitter maybe at some point, uh, would have been to spend on Meta because I'm actually a huge advocate. So I always like to preface, I think Meta's an evil company. I don't
Sure.
like think like Mark Zuckerberg believes in democracy, but I win elections using Meta ads because Meta is the only place where you can reach your audience with political content that doesn't look like an ad. And I run like literally I have campaigns right now where I'm running over 100 pieces of content right now. I don't want them to look like ads. If a campaign
Sure.
says, here's an ad, put money behind it, I'm like, fine, but give me 80% of the budget to put behind like good performing organic content. There's so much opportunity out there on Meta to reach new people. And if I had like stayed in, like as money came in, as things got sorted, that's one place I would have invested. But so they didn't do that. But I'm telling you, their reach was bananas on social. Like from when I was there, like I said, that was not an exaggeration. We 8x outperformed Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all of our opponents combined in the first 3 months while I was running
Wow.
social for the campaign. Like those are real numbers, not generic numbers. And we were started at zero. Like we had, not zero for content, but like no money, like
Yeah, it was like
never run
1%. You guys are pulling like
yeah, yeah, we never run statewide. We were running against 2 lieutenant governors. We were running against, several people who'd run for statewide office before, and all of them combined, we were 8xing. Um, and they have continued to do that. I can't speak to the exact numbers now
right,
because
right,
I don't have access, but, like, I am guessing that they are very similar to those kind of numbers. They need to continue doing that. They also need to make sure that there are folks out there that are raising money, like whether it's super PACs or the party. There's like all kinds of like crazy, like the Supreme Court has made money such a
right.
joke. But one thing that Ben Wickler did very well that I'm hoping Devin Remiker is going to continue, although this will be his first real test, the new chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party, is are we able to bring in money to make sure that we are combating Elon Musk's $100 million? Elon Musk's $100 million is not enough money to change Wisconsin. Like we know that he spent $100 million
Yeah,
on a
he's
race and he
swinging
got
and
his
a miss.
ass kicked.
Yeah,
But
the Supreme
you
Court.
can't respond to his 100 million with nothing, right? You've got to respond to it with something. And the question is, will Wisconsin Dems be able to put up a race that like gives air cover while she's out there doing her thing? And maybe it's from the campaign, maybe it's from the party. I don't know. Um, but you're asking how we combat the media, like you speak directly to the voters, and then they continue to double and triple down on the field program. I've never seen a volunteer program like running at that level in Wisconsin. I mean, Zoran did like wild things in New York. Like I'm not saying they didn't invent the wheel on field organizing, but for Wisconsin, like I couldn't tell you the next most amount of volunteers that a campaign has gotten since I've lived here. Like there's not like nobody who's done anything like this in any way. And so I think continue with the digital program that got them here, continue with the field program that got them here, and then hopefully the quote unquote establishment that we all love to rail against decides, okay, yeah, we're going to invest in this race, puts a bunch of money in because we are going to need outside money
Well,
involved because Republicans, right
blue no
now,
matter
you're
who.
seeing a ton of money spent for Fran from Republicans. That's going
Right.
to go away and that's going to flip. And those ads are going to be brutal, man. Like, we are going to see some. I mean, she, she is the thing they warn us about, right? Like the
Right.
socialists, like it's going to be brutal. And the question is, like, do people take it seriously or can we define it better? We being the party, her as a candidate, them as the campaign, but us as the party. Like, it's on every single person in Wisconsin who believes in democracy. Tom Tiffany will very likely not certify the results of the 2028 election if he is governor. Like, it is a scary premise to think about him being governor of a swing state.
Yeah.
And even if we flip the legislature or hold the Supreme Court, him as governor is like a scary notion. And like, again, I would implore anybody who knows anybody in Wisconsin or anybody who's in Wisconsin, like whoever you want to win today, I hope you voted and worked your ass off to get him elected. And tomorrow, suck it up and work for whoever wins because we need all hands on deck in 2028.
Well, yeah, like they
I'm
say,
turning
blue
on
no
my
matter
TikTok
who.
hat here.
Blue no matter who, right?
Blue no matter who, unless it's us, right?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we'll see. We will find out soon, and I'll give you a preemptive congratulations. I think we can probably say that it's going to go well for Francesca Hong, and wouldn't be there without you.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate all your work. And yeah, this was fun, man.
All right, we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, everyone.